From the beginning, the images we have created have stood like mile markers on the road of human progress. What once was is now, because artists made it so. They captured a moment and made it eternal. Where did they get such power? Well, it was given to them, passed down through the ages, master to student, each building upon the other. John Stobart, one of the most accomplished artists of our time, says, "I don't think the greatest works have yet been done." And it's true, but only if the secrets are given to yet another generation. The first secret is this: it is not in the hand, it is in the eye. Follow us and we'll show you that once you learn to look at the world differently, it becomes a different world, one in which nature becomes the greatest teacher of all. Studio paintings remain an essential means of artistic expression. In this episode, John Stobart demonstrates how the lessons he learns from nature are incorporated in one of his classic maritime paintings.
Ever since coming to America some 25 years ago, I've been drawn to recreating the wharfside scene of the middle of the last century. And I love to go and research something, and the idea really is to bring this back to life. It needs to start with going to a historical society and just seeing what's available, seeing what old prints or old etchings or old daguerreotypes, old photographs, seeing what exists, what's been handed down from the past. I need to get historical accuracy into the painting because I'm making a record, really, that was never done before. And I have this one opportunity to get this thing right for people who come along later and wonder what it was like. Oh, my name's John Stobart.
Oh, how are you? I'm Susan Richardson.
I'm looking for any old reference material on Cobb Harbor.
This is some of Twachtman and Robinson's and Hassam's sketches. And
oh, really? Beautiful. Yeah.
Here's the Mianus River Bridge right
I love
here.
these etchings.
There were artists here painting, and because they were interested in the streetscape and the landscape and the water, they took photographs, and I have photographs to show
really?
you. Okay, I think I have just what you're looking for.
Wonderful.
This is a collection of pictures of some of the warehouses that are right there on the landing. This is a nice picture of the mill buildings, the warehouses next to the mill building from the street side.
This is also the same road, but we're looking at the back of the buildings that are not.
Right. Actually, I consider the back side the water side, so you're looking at the front side of the buildings that are built right on the edge.
Yeah.
You see here and here?
Now this one here, oh, I love the shape of that roof there.
Yes, that's an interesting building.
Yeah. Oh,
this is a really nice shot.
Oh, that makes it.
And here are
that's
the
absolutely
same
marvelous.
buildings from the street side.
You see, what I want to do is to put old vessels here, and if we can come across a few of those later on, if we can find some old vessels that this can make, I can make it really live. What I'm trying to do is to show the people of today what this was like then, because nobody knows that it was like this, I'm sure.
Will you use the same perspective that's in the photo then?
No, I won't. What I'm going to do, you see, this gives me all the information, but I'm going to reconstruct it so that it'll fit the painting that I want to do. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to go outside and look at the thing today and imagine and see the mood of everything, and see the water and the sky and everything, and get the feeling of the place in a sketch that I'll do. I can get right down to nature and do it from nature rather than from this type of thing. All I'll look for here is certain details, and then I'll be finished with that. You see, what I've been doing for the past 20 years here is rediscovering the scene of what happened here in the wharfside scene in America about, well, 100 years and more ago. And what I'm trying to do is to bring this back to life. And it's being down there that'll really create it.
Well, I wish I could wave away I-95 for you so that you could truly appreciate it the way it was.
quite sure when this painting crystallized in my mind, but it was visiting the Historical Society and seeing all that they had there that I realized I wanted to paint a picture of Greenwich, the little port of Greenwich. But it wasn't really until I came down here and saw this incredible sight of this throughway going over that were exactly where the little buildings were. I knew then, I was really excited then. I just wanted to get this going. Now, the first thing I always like to do when I've decided to make a large painting, one of my studio paintings, I like to come and just make a little shorthand sketch on site. This is so that I can get a feeling, I can learn about this area a little bit and just have this memory in my mind as to where I am and what I'm seeing. If I don't do this, I won't have the knowledge that I need when I carry on. So I'm just scribbling. I'm just going to work out a tiny little composition of this now. Now, this reminds me of quite some time ago when I was in England doing big boardroom paintings for the shipping companies of England. I used to do little paintings for the boardroom people and the directors, and then they'd choose from one of those and say, we'd like you to do this one, or we'd like you to do the other one. And then when all that was finished, I'd go away and do the painting. Well, this one occasion I came back and they loved the painting they'd chosen, but as they were telling me this, one of the directors leaned over to me and out of hearing of the others, and he said, you know what? He said, you've done a lovely painting for us, but this little one here is absolutely fantastic. Now, the important lesson that I learned on that little occasion was that spontaneity knocks but once. The spontaneity was going into the small painting and not into the big one. And I thought, I'm never going to let that happen again. So what I'm doing here, I'm going to not put too much into it at all. The great creative ability has to go into the big painting, not into this little one. I got the feeling that I want a nice vertical here of a vessel with masts at that wharf, just sitting right there behind that mud bank. Because I know that goes back a little bit, and I know the mud bank stretched out here. And then right in the middle, there's a lovely little bridge there. This is going to be a terrific composition. I can see it already. This is totally different now from what it was then, but only in one respect, and that is that the little boats aren't here, and the buildings are not on that stone wall arrayed along there. Everything else is here. The sky is here, the water's here, the trees are here, and all I have to do is to superimpose the old right on this scene. But the feature of it that really excited me was the shape of that gristmill right there. There's a very strange shaped roof on that. And I'm not going to paint the whole thing in here, but we'll see that as I progress with the painting. A beautiful little doorway there, and a very tall building, and I'm going to put a little boat in shadow underneath it, right there. That's what I had in mind. And I think we'll have one more little vessel leaning against that building, leaning against the wharf there. The mast tilting over, and that will tend to bring the eye. Little vessel there. Doesn't matter quite what that looks like here, but that's my idea. I think I'll tilt the mast of that little vessel that way. That'll make a lovely little painting. There we are, it's beginning to look finished already. Now here we are in my studio in Boston Harbor, overlooking the whole scene here. It's a lovely location because I have a north light and the sun is always out of the room. And so it's a perfect location for me to work. And it happens to be the same location that the famous marine artist Robert Salmon had his studio in, just a few yards back behind me. Now, here we have the sketch that I produced in Greenwich, and I'm going to now lay it in on the big canvas and try and retain some spontaneity. The reason that I didn't do this so detailed and wouldn't want to have done was this very, very important thing about having the spontaneity in this larger painting. So I'm going to stick that right there, and we'll begin. First establishing the horizon line. It's very important to establish where the horizon line should be and to establish the vanishing point of all this group of buildings on the left, which is right there. In that case, it's about here. In actual fact, about where the white vessel is on the right. So all these lines would be doing this, going down to that point. The color that I'm using now is not of any importance because it's all going to be changed. A lot of things that I do are absolutely instinctive, and it's almost difficult for me to analyze why I do something. I've often read about other artists and how they do this and that, and I think, well, that sounds a lot of baloney. I don't think they did that at all. I think they just did it instinctively. They probably didn't even know what they were doing. My mission here is to get the whole thing established on this bigger scale in as loose a manner as I possibly can, but get it done quickly so that I can work the composition, change things while the whole thing's wet. So this is an important, probably the most important day in the life of a painting, is this particular time. See, in this stage, I can change things, and it's a wonderful way to start because the paint's all wet, and you can change anything, move it all around, and really compose the painting on this first day. It all can be composed in one fell swoop here. I think most artists who are interested in doing this type of thing will be able to see that it isn't really that difficult. Basically, I'm just putting that on here as quickly as I possibly can. And it should all arrive in less than half an hour here. Drop that a little bit more. Always clean my brush after every stroke so that it doesn't get... Keep the colors clean and fresh. I want to arrange this corner so that the eye is nicely taken around. You can't have things going off the edge here, and there'll be a bit of foliage in here. The light source was chosen right at the beginning when I first went down to the wharf there. I wanted the sun to be rising over here and hitting everything here. I think that will really make this thing live. What I'm doing here is getting the proportions of this onto there, and the quick way of doing that is to measure with the end of the brush here how far that is from the end, and then say 1, 2, 3, 4. That goes 4, so that's a fifth across. So I measure this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's exactly. That is where this is in relation to this on the big canvas, in that spot. And that's a very easy way of, you don't need to get a rule out and measure it and do a whole combination of things. You've got to do it rule of thumb. And just the same as the depth of the water here is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 3/4. See? So here we go 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I've got it higher, you see. So this will all have to come down. This is what happens on the first day. You alter this, so all that's going to come down in a little while. But now I'm going to get some of this sky covered. Prior to my starting this white canvas and seeing my sketch and studying that and having it around, just looking at it and then glancing away and doing something else for a while, and then just looking at it, and it keeps, the memory of it keeps coming back and coming back and coming back. I gradually get the feeling of the magic that I want to put in it. I want to get that feeling of what it was like then. I mean, it was absolutely fantastic. I think it would have been. And I think I can do it if I really get certain elements right in it. If I can get the composition right and some of these very characterful vessels. Now we're 3 sessions beyond where I was before, and I'm still sorting out the composition. Now, because I'm not yet quite satisfied with the balance in the composition, the viewer might be wondering why it is I didn't just draw the whole thing in the first place and then stick to that. But you don't know where the mass is when you draw something. All you see is lines. You don't see lines out here. You don't see lines in a view. All you see mass, and it's the changing masses that create the composition. Now, achieving a painting like this is really a journey that could take months. And what we're going to try and do is to have you stop in along the way and just check on the progress. I think it might sound funny, but when I see a boat out of the water sitting on the mud, I feel nervous about the thing because it can't get anywhere. It can't escape. It's stuck. It's out of its natural environment. I find it very attractive and very vulnerable looking. I think this comes to another point in that I'm really trying to evoke emotion from the viewer. The viewer will see a boat in that way and they'll start to think, wow, you know, the tide's out, that boat's all stuck high and dry, and look how beautiful it is. It's the things that bring the viewer to sort of beckon the viewer to come and look and think about what's going on in the painting. Now here we are several sessions later, and as you see, there's some detail coming to this. I got some nice recession here with the trees, and I'm putting in the schooner's rigging. In between sessions, the darker paint, the oil out of it sometimes seeps into the ground, and when I come back and I've been waiting for something to dry so that I can do the rigging, it's gone a sort of matte gray tone. And to pull this back to what I really want it to be and what it was like when I first started, we use retouching varnish. And very lightly put on, and then I wipe it off always, just so that there's a slight touch, but it brings all those tones so that they're exactly what they were when I first started. Now I'm putting in this forestay here. Very lightly at first to show that I'm going where the direction that I want to go with it. Gradually build it up. There we are. Now, when I blocked this in, of course, all this was very rough, but I knew exactly what was going on in my mind, and I love this building here. Look at that. I don't know what it was for, that door, but it's beautiful, that shape. And that's the main feature of the whole painting, really. But then we move across here and see all this interesting wharf side activity with the boats here. And here I've got a horse with a buggy, and he's just getting some oats there. And I want to put a little activity in here with a man pushing a cart with the potatoes on it. And we'll try and put that in now.
Okay, hold on.
Now this is a matter of trial and error. I'm going to draw in the figure here, and at first it's just going to be a series of blobs. That's his back, and then we'll just... This is the only one that is going to appear in the light in the whole painting, the only figure. So it's got to be very interesting. Now, a little red blob for his face there. And then they used to wear vests, or we called them waistcoats. And I'm going to have him in shirt sleeves and a waistcoat. Got quite a load. He's lifting this on a scale that had a weight on it. And he's weighed the potatoes before he brought them out, probably. And this is what this port was all about. Mainly produce was shipped here from here to New York, just coastwise produce, like potatoes and onions and all the local vegetables that were grown. I'm using a number 5 watercolor sable brush, and For the last several years, they haven't stood up to the oil medium very well, and that's because the hair is no longer coming from Russia. It used to come from Russia about 8 years ago, and then it suddenly stopped. This particular type of painting, which I would call topographical or narrative marine painting, it's got to say something. You've got to really give the viewer something. I want to make this whole thing look exciting to the viewer, because they can walk around here and they can walk up there and knock on the door, see who's there, and they can walk around the front here and meet these guys, and then go back to the street, down the street and across the bridge and over here. I want to create a place that can be enjoyed by the viewer. Of course, it's really fascinating to me to be able to take it back in time and to recreate something that's gone, and that was not done, by the way, by very many artists of those days. Now this man is waiting for his friend to come along with the sacks, and he's in shadow. I don't want this to jump too much. I want people to look for this and find them, these people, when they study the painting. I don't want them to, these people to jump right out. What a wonderful place it is. I mean, I'd love to have lived near here. This is gorgeous. Imagine the fun it would be to watch these little boats going in and out of port at high tide. Oh, it would be just lovely. Here am I creating this scene, and I'm actually going to be the first person to see it as it was in the old days, because I'm putting it back exactly as it was to the best of my ability, and I'm the first person there. And in this case, you're the second person.